I'm Sarah Backhouse for Hub Culture. I'm joined by Richard Jones of the International Energy Agency. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Not at all. Tell me a little bit about the International Energy Agency.
The International Energy Agency is an international organization. Our members are countries. We have 28 member countries, all of whom are Western democracies, developed countries. And we were formed about 35 years ago in the wake of the 73-74 oil crisis. And our primary mandate is to promote the energy security of our member countries.
And obviously this leads into renewables easily now because this is an emerging field.
Exactly. We in fact manage an emergency response system, but in order to do that we have to look at the total energy system. We need to know when stockpiles need to be used, for example. And therefore we look at all aspects of energy, including, as you mentioned, renewable energy, which of course is a very hot topic these days.
How do we encourage people to head towards alternative energies? Obviously the price is higher right now. Is there a way to coax them along?
Absolutely. Governments have many tools at their disposal. I mean, they can give subsidies, they can encourage research and development, and there are a variety of tools. What we say, though, is that they should have consistent policies. The policies should be transparent. The policies should be tailored for the stage of development of the technology. In some cases, you want technology-specific policies, although over the long run, you want policies that are technology neutral. You don't want the government to try and pick winners. One of the technology neutral policies that you can develop that's sometimes used, especially for more mature technologies, like wind and solar power, is the so-called feed-in tariff. These are both ways of generating electricity, and the feed-in means you can feed into the grid. It allows individuals, small companies, or even large companies that have invested in wind power or solar power. It gives them access to the grid, and it guarantees the price at which the electricity they produce will be purchased by the grid. And it can be a very important tool for encouraging investment in these technologies. It's worked very well in Germany. It's helped expand the wind industry throughout Europe. You do have to be careful because if you make the tariffs too generous, you get too much investment. The Spanish had a little bit of a problem. They had to adjust their system. The Germans, I think, had an interesting approach because they decided from the very beginning that their tariff would move down in stages. And that's very good because what happens, and one of the reasons that you do this, is you want to increase the scale. You want to get the economies of scale that always come with mass production of a product. And so it's a way of priming the pump. But once the pump gets going, you don't need to keep priming it. And so you got to reduce those tariffs. It's a very interesting tool that's worked very well in Europe and could work in the United States. In some jurisdictions it is available, but it's more local than national in the US.
And speaking more about less than national levels, we're here at the Governors Global Climate Summit where sub-national governments, we're looking at the role that they can play in combating climate change.
And they can play a very important role. I mean, when you look at it, especially in a country like the United States, most of the decisions that need to be made will be made at the state and local level, not at the federal level. We don't have a federal agency out there procuring wind turbines or buying solar cells. It has to be, the decisions have to be made by the communities and the states, you know, at the level of the local power producers. So it very much makes sense to have this kind of a summit and get the leaders of these state or local and regional governments together so they can learn from one another and draw courage. We did a publication about a year and a half ago where we had 14 different case studies at the local and subnational level, states and even municipalities. And we found that there's a tremendous amount that can be done at that level. One of the things that people need to remember, for example, is that 70% of people today live in cities. And cities have a lot of jurisdiction in this area.
Richard Jones, thank you very much for sharing your insights.
Thank you for having me, Sarah.
Yeah, okay, thank
Pleasure.
you.